Welcome to BattleTech in the Morning with Captain Nips. I'm Captain Nips, and on this chilly morning, it's time for some more BattleTech backer beta here in the midst of the oncoming cold season. But we're going to stay warm with some BattleTech, and continuing on from yesterday's experiments, some science, we're going to Pilot Day 2 of... Is it the Mech or is it the pilot? How is the AI actually trying to make decisions?
Welcome,
And so, as per the plan, I have kept everything the same. We've got our 4 select mechs, Centurion, Griffin, Shadowhawk, Quickdraw, with a new set of pilots. And just for recollection's sake, we've got our different tags. We've got some brawlers in here. Got the sniper on the Griffin, sniper tag on the Griffin. A couple of them tagged with indirect fire. And then the lance tags with assassin versus support vanguard versus tank. So let's see, with a very similar or near identical setup, if we can get the AI to behave the same way.
Commencing deployment. Mech warriors, prepare for combat. Command interface initiated.
And as per yesterday's setup, Arclight is in her very special locust. And it was pointed out to me, or the notion was made, the suggestion was made, and I think there's probably some truth to this, because who knows, the AI is what it is, that since I'm using this special locust with exceptionally long sight lines to try and peek in on what the enemy lance is doing, that it actually is changing their behavior as a kind of a Schrodinger's battlefield situation here. And there's probably something to be said to that. But it's a kind of a catch-22. If I want to know what the enemy is doing, I kind of have to see what they're doing. But if I don't look at the enemy, they'll be doing something else, maybe, or they'll be doing something. I don't know. It's a very confusing situation to be in. Let's just put that out there. But for the sake of this experiment, I think it is safest if we just don't change any variables now. You know, we've already started the experiment. First rule of experimentation is don't start fiddling with the knobs once the experiment is underway. And even though the AI knowing that they're spotted might change their behavior, we can still get a reasonably good look at what is their behavior, even though they have been spotted. Yes, it's not going to be the same behavior as if they're operating underneath the fog of war, but we can at least start to put together some puzzle pieces as to how the AI behaves even when it's being spotted. So we're going to get our spotter lady up on the rock where she belongs. First turn was another strong push. Again, AI being what it is, having been spotted. Strong pushes here. Oddly, the Griffin taking a jump this turn. Alright, so got your Shadowhawk on the left. Your Griffin the Centurion. This is actually very, very similar to the setup from yesterday. You've got the Shadowhawk off to one side. The Centurion's kind of in the middle, being in the middle. The Griffin has... I don't remember if it jumped on its second turn over here, but it definitely has moved down into this area. And the Quickdraw, again, is moving off onto this flank, it appears. We'll find out in a moment. So, let's start with somebody that can move down to cover, preferably.
Piece of cake.
And amongst all of these wonderful targets, with all of these defensive modifiers, I think we will start open on Centurion. And now, for those of you that do science, you will probably note that this is where the experiment starts to fray a little bit, because I'm not going to be able to mimic exactly the same sets of moves and attacks as I did yesterday. Even the RNG isn't going to be the same. You know, I might hit with more of these lasers than not, and the whole texture of this battle might change right from this shot here. But I think it's still reasonable to carry through on this experiment and get a sense of what the AI wants to do. There's that aggressive jump into the river.
Oh, I took one in the gut. What's the plan?
So now here we have the opportunity to move down on the one in the water, and trying to do my best to keep it set up like last time. I had 2 quick draws down in the forest here, one peeled off to the left, that eventually started to duel with this Shadowhawk. This is not a great target. Neither of these are great targets, truth be told. 40%. Actually can't even shoot at the Centurion.
All weapons, fire.
Although, looking at it now, I did have my pilot, the different pilots in different positions. Sumo and Paradise were down here yesterday. Blockade was over here.
How might I help?
You know, make do. Alright, so now over here, not quite getting the same move I was getting yesterday. I do want to get to the cover at the very least. So I'm going to take a jump over here, which is going to texture my attack this turn. Let's see what we got. Lots of heat. Taking the good 2-hit numbers on that attack. Arclight, continuing to observe faithfully from the rock in the distance. That was an odd choice of an attack. This Shadowhawk just decided to stand there and fire a single laser. Griffin begins its notion of PPC sniping. The Centurion, despite its tank tag and its brawler tag, has decided to set up back. Now, today the Centurion's being piloted by Kraken, so there might be something there to the notion that
You have orders?
Kraken isn't interested in getting into a close-up fight.
On my way. Oh, you want some of this?
Let's see how much more aggressive this quick draw wants to get. The answer is super aggressive. Again.
Come on, send me a real mech warrior.
Which is being piloted by Paradise today. Hence the extra long jump up to this rock instead of just down behind over here. But 2 can play at that game.
Reporting. How might I help?
So let's give it what it wants.
Putting one in the back.
I don't know that any of those weapons could have shot any harder off to the sides to avoid that quick draw. That was amazing.
What's the plan?
Alright, so the question becomes, do I try and mimic the last game in terms... I mean, we're past the point where the game has started to diverge. Do I want to try and pull left here and turn this into a 1v1 over here and just see what happens? Or do I just play it straight? I think I want to... I mean, we're here for science. We're here for science. So let's see what happens if we can get into a 1v1 situation down over here. It's not going to be 1v1 for long because these two mechs can move. They will. This is also not the greatest shot because the target is guarded. But give it something to think about.
What do you need? Managing heat.
Interestingly enough, that Shadowhawk has decided not to get into a 1v1 and is taking the crossfield shot at Sumo. Sumo apparently getting to be the punching bag for the enemy team. Alright, so
You have orders?
we're here. Actually, while I'm here, probably should just make a melee attack. My heat scale is crazy high. Take the easy shot, blow down some heat,
Time to get physical.
and get a shot to the leg. So
What's the plan?
since Sumo's getting pretty beat up over here, I think what we'll do is take a quick jump to the rear line,
Aye, aye.
which is going to go poorly for my friend over here on the left, Paradise, but we can figure something out on that in a moment. Let's see if there's any heat to be given here. Sneak in a laser and an SRM4. So let's do that since we're on the rear.
I'll make them dead.
Continue to tag this quick draw back here.
Come on, it's like a steam bath in here.
Alright, so now we can get quick draw piloted by Paradise over here a bit. And interestingly enough, I can't draw a line on Shadowhawk because of the big rock in the way right here. So, changing targets it is. It's not ideal. I still want to keep the river as best I can. But I want to put some distance between me and this Griffin. And mostly to see what this Griffin does. I'm curious to see what these two mechs will do now that Sumo has pulled back behind terrain where they can't get to him. Are all three of these mechs going to then turn down on Paradise? That would make the most sense to me, given that he's got no defensive modifiers at the moment. Turn off the SRMs. That gets us down underneath the red line. Let's light up the center. A lot of misses there, Paradise.
Yep.
Arclight continuing to hold steady. Alright, so Blockade is up on the mountain, and this time the trio of mediums, I'm going to call it here, yep, they're all deciding to take shots on Blockade because he's the easiest target to get at. Although it is curious that they're not also, like, Paradise is just as easy a target right now. So the game is, the AI is trying to do its best to focus fire, which, you know, alright, good. That's good. It's what you want to see out of an effective battlefield combatant.
That shot went internal.
Alright. Now that that's over with,
Reporting.
let's take a good look with Blockade here.
Copy that.
Roll him around. Since this quick draw did push so aggressively. 2 for 2. 2 days in a row. Let's light him up. Piloted today by Paradise. I think I mentioned that earlier, but it's worth repeating.
Confirmed.
Because maybe we can start to establish some behavioral trends.
Got past his armor.
The quick draw definitely now, you know, 2 for 2 on days where it has pushed hard into my line. So that part doesn't seem to be too dictated by the pilot. That's kind of a dick move, game. What did she ever do to you?
Come on, send me a real mech warrior.
Yeah, like she said.
How might I help?
Let's see if we can't just finish the job over here. Probably should have gone in on a melee attack here, but what are you going to do?
Target.
Take away some of its guns.
Hey, hey, what's the heat?
Alright, so let's see if we can get this. So we've got some options. That rock right here is killer. It's killing my line of sight. So I guess we'll stay on the Centurion. Let's see if we can get a line. Paradise is...
Certainly.
I will be shocked if these three mediums don't all turn on Paradise at this point. There is absolutely no reason for them to not take a step or two, give a clear line, and fire on Paradise, because he has no defensive modifiers whatsoever.
Yeah?
Arclight's going to just keep doing her thing. And the AI still chooses to fire on Blockade in the distance when the better, safer shot, the better, easier shot is just sitting down in the river nearby. Wow, okay, so here we see an actual, I think it's safe to say there's a deviation in the behavior here. Now, I don't know if it's the pilots, but these two, alright, so now you got your Centurion finally deciding to move up. But the Griffin and the Shadowhawk, let's just take a quick peek at that chart again. Griffin was indirect fire with Sniper, and the Shadowhawk is Brawler, no indirect fire. So it makes some sense that the Griffin is still holding, hiding back here. Has not moved. Fired indirectly. It took its shot. This is a little interesting. Shadowhawk's being piloted by Ozone, who's getting Bulwark by sitting here. So maybe because Bulwark is in play, the AI has decided not to move because it had a target. Interesting.
What's the plan?
Alright, so
Something I can do?
let's just take care of this little backfield problem, eh? Start with Sumo. Let's punch this guy in the back.
I'm there.
And put that quick draw down. So I think so far it's safe to say 2 for 2 that the quick draw with either pilot that it's had, its intention has been to push hard into my line. We'll see tomorrow if that stays true, but I think that's a pretty safe safe reading to take off of that.
How might I help?
The rest of this is a little bit stranger. So let's go over to Blockade. Now Blockade would love to bleed some heat, also love to not get shot a bit more. But out of curiosity's sake, oh, I guess we can get a line of fire here. I'm going to turn this so I can present my right side, but I also want to put that Centurion in crosshairs.
Heading out.
And given that what we've seen so far in this match, let's see, turn off some of these low percentage. Actually, turn that off. Keep the lasers on.
Roger.
It seems entirely possible that in this match right now, the AI is going to continue to focus the 3 medium mechs worth of fire on Blockade, because now it is back to being near the front of the line. Although it's now got defensive modifiers.
Reporting.
And Paradise continues to be part of the equation here.
Be there in a jiff.
And a relatively easy target to hit. Like, I'm not using Paradise's skills to their maximum, that's for sure.
Have no doubt, it will be done.
Take away the large laser on that Centurion and see what happens. Arclight will continue to
Holding and cooling.
hold the rock. Shadowhawk takes its focus fire and now decides... Okay, Ozone, that was weird. Alright, maybe not the best use of focus, but the AI has proven time and again that that's not exactly its strong suit.
Just stop. You're embarrassing yourself.
The AI has decided, it looks like, since Paradise has the more favorable defensive modifiers, to change all of its weapon fire to him. Even if it meant taking indirect fire from Mockingbird's Griffin and Ozone's Shadowhawk.
Awaiting orders. Moving out. The target is confirmed.
Man, look at that barrage. Right on the money on that side torso. Drilling it out and drilling into the center.
Yeah?
Alright, Sumo's got some heat back, so he's also a million miles away from the fight, so we're just gonna move him up and bleed the last of that heat scale off. Let's go ahead and give the targets in the distance a fresh thing to think about. Still probably going to be, yeah, still has more defensive modifiers than Paradise does in the distance, so the question is, does the AI change its tact?
Engaging target.
Yeah?
Hanging out
Got
on
it.
the rock.
Sensing heat.
Interesting. So it has gone back, at least in part. So Shadowhawk decides to trade shots at Blockade. And the Griffin. Wonder if this is a situation of it smells blood in the water. The Centurion is going to keep up its barrage on Paradise, so... Interesting.
Hole in my armor.
Interesting. Alright. What do we do with this? So we got the Shadowhawk and the Griffin kind of holding pat. The Griffin is being piloted by Mockingbird. This is being piloted by Ozone. I think that's right. We'll have to check after the end of the match. Centurion's being piloted by Kraken. The Quick Draw is being piloted by Paradise. This is
Yes, Commander.
interesting. Interesting, right?
Have no doubt. It
Paradise is
will be
going
done.
to continue to creep his way down the river here, take shots through this left side. Probably gets the job done here. If we hit with 3 of the... No. Yeah, we'll see. It's possible that the Centurion goes down to this. Yeah, there you go.
That would be a kill.
So far, 2 matches in, regardless of pilot, it has seemed like the Centurion has held off a bit early and then rushed in late, which maybe it's a trend, maybe it's an anecdote.
Right here.
We'll find out as we continue to conduct more science. Sumo, we're going to send him down the hill here and start taking shots at this Griffin. I don't remember Mockingbird having Bulwark. I'll have to check that after the match is over.
Aye, aye. What do you need?
Close this gap to short range. Fire with what guns we've got left, since we've got good fire percentages, and then we'll move to punching range. Oh, here we go with the weird UI issues again.
What do you need?
Focus on Arclight being in the red, oddly.
Managing heat.
Interesting. Now Sumo is drawing the fire. It's weird because it seems like the AI can't quite make up its mind whether it wants to take the easy shot or the shot that would possibly damage mechs the most. Like you shooting the wounded mech.
Reporting.
Yep.
Can't quite get there on a jump. So we'll just continue to move.
Acknowledged.
Take this water. Continue to pour our guns into this Shadowhawk here.
Taking the shot.
The question at this point, in my mind, now that we're getting into the late game, is how stubbornly are these two mechs going to hold their position? If they are both bulwark pilots, we know Ozone is a bulwark skilled pilot. I guess Mockingbird must be. It's the only way that this makes sense. How much of a push on their position do I have to make before they'll actually back off or try to reposition? Let's make a short move and cool off a bit. Got that focus up. I would like to be able to leverage an entire alpha with it. Okay, Sumo.
Yeah.
Actually, Sumo might be able to do it once he gets down into the river here.
You got it.
Yeah, plenty of heat scale. Let's throw focus on this.
Okay. Now the gloves are off.
And point those guns at this Griffin, since the Griffin is nearby.
I'm gonna make some trash.
Ah, Sumo baby. How'd you miss with that laser? That's rough.
Yeah. Got it.
Arclight
Sending
continuing to do paperwork here up on the mountain. Sumo now taking a pounding from a finally a focus salvo that makes sense out of the AI. Both remaining mechs focusing their fire did not move. Point of note. This is good to know.
Awaiting orders.
All right, let's see if we can shake this guy out of Ozone out of his comfy spot here. You know what? Start with the rip and tear with our guns, and then we'll come up with the fisticuffs.
Unleashing hell.
Woohoo!
That's a critical hit.
Something I can do? Okay, I'm on it. You got it. Standing by.
We got almost fresh legs. No reason not to use it. That gets the job done. Ooh, got real close with that one leg though.
Yep. Holding and cooling.
As we enter into the cleanup step of this match today. Focusing down to come in for melee, only to hit the leg. That's rough.
Armor breach. Internal damage.
Hey, Sumo. You know how to fight. Get to it.
I'm there.
Oh, Sumo buddy. Whiffing hard. But Mockingbird giving up her bulwarked position and her rear armor to the rest of the team.
As you wish.
Maybe not the best decision. Just gonna throw that out there. It is the end of the game, however. It's coming down to the wire. This is all cleanup at this point.
Locking on target.
Aye, aye.
We're gonna give ourselves some space for a melee move, just in case. Just in case she decides to fidget a little bit in the next turn. Let's put these remaining guns on target.
What do you need? I'm being flanked.
Interesting. Goes for the evasive jump jet move. Trying to get back out of melee, which seems like a strange... I mean, the whole decision to move into melee seemed a little strange, but...
Yes, Commander.
You know, what are you going to do? What I'm going to do is... get behind her.
Yes, Commander.
Try and finish this job. Heat's running high. But that's okay. This is all a formality at this point as we close out. Oof, that's rough. Losing the right side on that Griffin. Not the best.
Right here.
Can we get there? Oh, you know what? That's just going to break a leg. So we're not going to do that. We're going to move over here.
You got it.
We're going to put all these guns on this Griffin. This is not the best numbers in the world. Defensive modifiers. What else we got going on here? Target move +6. Target size +1. Target size +1. Oh, interesting. Medium X. As we kind of just tickle the armor there. Can't really get a good... There's not great position here. Can I get into its right arc? Yeah, I can actually.
Roger.
This isn't a bad position. Start working through the empty side. Only 15 structure left on the CT. I gotta get through 46 armor first, though. So,
I'm on it.
let's keep that working. And there we go. Blockade finishes the job.
Mission successful.
So what have we learned here today in round 2 of Is It the Pilot or Is It the Mech, the deep, deep AI dive? Well, it definitely seemed like the quick draw in both matches so far has chosen to make a forceful push. So I'm not... But then that was with Paradise, who has tended to be an aggressive pilot in the past. So I'm not sure if that... I don't know if we can completely, you know, close the book on that particular behavior, but there's notions toward it. There's definitely a behavioral switch with Bulwark and the pilot wanting to try and use Bulwark as much as it can. Because Ozone definitely, like, he took 2 moves and he stopped moving the rest of the match. Mockingbird similarly, which I'll have to go back and check and see what her piloting skill is. I know it's sensor lock, but I don't remember what her second one is. Kraken's behavior confused me, but the behavior of the Centurion yesterday to today seems to be somewhat consistent. It made kind of a middling move in the early game into range, and then in the mid to late game moved in for closer shot / melee kind of engagement. Not sure what we have quite yet, but that's why we will continue the experiment and see if there are any other fun deviations in behavior with a different set of pilots tomorrow. 12 rounds, 31 minutes, and 36 seconds in today's science experiment as we get through with most of the team intact. But that'll be all for today's BattleTech in the morning. I am scribbling furiously on the chalkboard. Captain Nips. I hope all of you out there have a wonderful morning, wonderful afternoon, evening, or night. A wonderful day. Go have a wonderful day, folks, wherever you are. And I'll see all of you in the next video.